This is the world's largest military.
An elaborate military parade showcasing new weapons, really a show of force for China on the global stage.
Xi Jinping has made it a stated goal to modernize China's military and turn it into a fighting force capable of winning wars.
But behind the choreography, it's undergoing its most serious leadership shakeup in decades. During Xi's third term, 15 of the 79 generals promoted under him have either gone missing or been investigated. It's the biggest purge of China's military personnel since the chaotic Mao Zedong era ended in 1976.
Every time you think, surely this is as big as it can get and as high as it can go, it does seem to just keep getting bigger.
He obviously wants to centralize control, even at the expense of having people that he himself has personally appointed removed from that party structure.
This is key as Xi nears a potential fourth term that would stretch his time in power to 20 years. The global consequences will be far-reaching, with tensions between the US and China rising on many fronts. And then there's this.
A top US admiral says signs suggest China is sticking to its ambitions to be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027.
The competition between the United States and China is the most dangerous and the most impactful when it comes to the militaries of these two countries. Anything that changes the dynamic there is inevitably going to change the way the world works politically, economically, technologically, in big and small ways.
So what's behind these unprecedented purges? And what could they mean for China and the global stage? China's military is unlike any other in the world. First, because of its leadership. While most military forces are controlled by the state, the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, is run by a political party, the Chinese Communist Party. It's divided into four main forces. There's the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Rocket Force, which handles China's missiles. They're all under the command of the Central Military Commission, or CMC, which in turn is controlled by the Central Committee, the highest level of authority within the party. Both bodies are headed by Xi Jinping.
So the Central Military Commission is essentially the apex military body in China. It is in charge of commanding the military, and it's also a political body as well, making sure that the right sort of political thought is running through the military.
So that's how it's run, but it's the scale of the PLA that gives it such heft.
Relative to the militaries of other global superpowers, China has on paper a huge numerical advantage.
You can see that here. China has the largest number of active military personnel in the world by far.
But what they've struggled with historically, and what they're trying to change now, is the modernization aspect of those forces.
That's where Xi Jinping comes in. Since taking power in 2012, Xi has more than doubled military spending to $296 billion. He also established a goal of modernizing the military forces by 2035 and making them world-class by 2050.
Part of that has been investing in new technologies.
It also involved restructuring the PLA in a way that would better suit China's global ambitions.
The PLA was created as a force to fight and win the Chinese Civil War, so mainly a land-based army. That's not what China needs today. China needs an air force, it needs a navy, it needs nuclear weapons. That's what Xi Jinping wanted to transform the PLA into.
The other thing that he has done is excise parts of the leadership that he feels or that had been shown to be corrupt or disloyal to the party.
Which takes us to Xi Jinping's unprecedented corruption crackdown. Since Xi came into power, hundreds of senior officials across all sectors of the government have been taken down, including in the military.
US intelligence revealing widespread corruption is behind President Xi's sweeping purge of China's military.
Our understanding is corruption was rampant in the military. I mean, we've had cases of people at the very top of the military hierarchy being tried and convicted of taking bribes to help others secure promotions.
Xi has also seen how Putin got onto the battlefield in Ukraine and discovered that corruption had meant that a lot of the equipment he thought he had wasn't actually up to par. But at the same time, corruption probes in China and in the military have a history of being political.
This is evident when you take a look at the officials Xi has removed since taking power. During his first term, 3 high-ranking security and military officials were ousted. The 3 of them had all been appointed by Xi's predecessors and were associated with his political rivals. But it's been during Xi's 3rd term where things have escalated.
In the summer of 2023, there was an announcement that China was going to investigate corruption involving equipment purchases going right back to 2017. And then sort of within weeks of that announcement, we started to get reports that very senior people from China's rocket force were being hauled off, taken away, probed, and essentially ousted from their roles.
During this period, 15 generals who had been promoted under Xi himself have either gone missing or been investigated. That's a major shift. None of Xi's predecessors ever purged generals they had personally appointed. Among the most high-profile of them are Li Shangfu, Miao Hua, and He Weidong. All 3 men were associates of Xi and sat on the Central Military Commission. 2 of these oustings have been confirmed publicly.
Li Shangfu, now the shortest reigning defense minister ever in China.
Miao Hua is being suspended.
But little is known about the fate of He Weidong.
If China's political system is opaque and hard to read, its military system is even more murky. Often we're looking at very sort of specific events for a sign. It's sort of a game of an opposite of Where's Wally? You're trying to look at who isn't there when they should be.
There are absences that are noticed of senior party officials, and that is the first indication that something is wrong.
That's what happened in April during a routine tree planting ceremony with China's most senior military leaders.
As the state media sort of camera scans across the military leaders, then people realize He Weidong is not there. He was one of the first people in over a decade to not have to work his way up the Central Military Commission. And then within a very short space of time, he's gone. And he's someone that was meant to be a loyalist to Xi Jinping.
If He Weidong's ousting is confirmed, it would mean that 3 of the members of the CMC have been purged, leaving the highest proportion of vacancies since the Mao era. So why is this important? Well, it all comes down to the thorny issue of succession.
Xi Jinping's power doesn't come from his role as president of the country. It really comes from his position as chairman of the Central Military Commission.
Whoever is chairman of the military commission, and also who is maybe vice chairman, tells you who is in power and who is maybe coming up next.
In fact, both Xi Jinping and his predecessor, Hu Jintao, became vice chairs of the CMC before rising to general secretary.
Xi has now purged so many people from the CMC that there are many vacancies on that body. And at some point, he's going to have to fill them. And so the people that he does pick will be very closely scrutinized because people are wondering, will any of them be the next leader of China?
One of the things behind the purges is to create a degree of loyalty to him as the paramount leader of China. This plays into his larger ambitions for China, and it's all part of the national rejuvenation that he has talked about since he's been in power. This includes what he describes as the unification with Taiwan, and that is why the military is so important as well.
Beijing has always endeavored to bring Taiwan into the Chinese state peacefully if it can, but would be willing to use military force if it had to.
Which finally takes us to how the purges could impact China's military readiness.
A Chinese invasion of Taiwan would be incredibly difficult. In theory, it could go 2 ways. If you're removing corrupt leadership, then it could improve capability to carry out their mission. On the other hand, if you remove leaders who are popular, they could hurt morale.
So when Xi Jinping has to oust his loyalists, what does that mean? Some people will say it shows you how powerful Xi Jinping is. But then there are other people who will say it's not a sign of power when the people that you appoint in key positions in the military you can't trust.
This creates a degree of paranoia because nobody really knows whether they're in favor or out of favor. and that ensures that Xi Jinping holds the power right where he wants it, in the palm of his hand.